Welcome. I'm Tracy Poff, and it is my joy and honor to share with you this presentation of research findings regarding the practice of medical intuition. Now, normally I like to speak off the cuff, unscripted. However, I'm going to stick to my script for this presentation to ensure I cover everything I intend to. So bear with me as I read my script. I'd like to start by thanking each of the medical intuitives who graciously participated in this study and whose lived experience lies at the heart of it. Thank you. I undertook this original research while in my doctoral program. The study was conducted under the supervision of 3 doctors, including 2 PhDs and 1 medical doctor. You may access my complete research report online. It is indexed by Google Scholar, and a direct link is included in the description beneath this video. So let's start with the basics and a definition. The phenomenon of medical intuition may be defined as the skill of using extrasensory perception to assess the health condition of another individual. An example of extrasensory perception is clairvoyance, in which the subject of observation is seen in the so-called mind's eye as compared to perceiving through the physical eyes. Those who practice medical intuition are called medical intuitives. Because medical intuition uses extrasensory perception, a medical intuitive can reportedly perform a health scan from anywhere in the world, in a separate location from the person being read, and without knowing anything about the person's life or medical history. Typically, all that is said to be needed to conduct a health scan is the person's name. I chose to formally study medical intuition because my first experience with it as a client left me in awe. How was it possible to perceive detailed information about a person knowing only their name? My quest to understand led to a dramatic transformation in my worldview, from one based in materiality to one based in spirituality. There are only a handful of studies about medical intuition, and apparently none that dive deeply into the lived experience of it. Therefore, this study inquired about the subjective experience of those who practice medical intuition, as well as their worldviews, including spiritual and metaphysical outlooks. Being a new field of study, a qualitative research approach was deemed appropriate. Data were collected via interviews and interpreted using thematic analysis. The sample comprised 15 medical intuitives from across the United States and 1 Canadian province. Their ages ranged from 39 to 82 years of age. Length of professional experience ranged from 7 to 41 years, most having more than 20 years of experience. Most participants reported having conducted thousands of medical intuition readings remotely, that is, in a location separate from the person being read. 87% of participants self-identified as female, a proportion that seems common among other studies of intuitive practitioners based in Western cultures. Using thematic analysis, 3 groups of themes were identified. We'll look at each group individually. The first group related to the experience of intuitively perceiving information while conducting a medical intuition reading or a health scan. To prepare to read a client, medical intuitives adjust their mindset such that they are relaxed and focused, and they become what they described as an open channel or a conduit for information. As they open themselves to receiving information, participants noted that it comes in via multiple extrasensory channels, sometimes all at once. The experience was described as receiving a download of information. The term X-ray vision was used to describe seeing into clients' bodies, such as seeing the pumping heart or microscopic cells. information was also said to come by telepathic communication with the client's body or spirit, or with non-physical beings, which were referred to typically as spirit guides. Another way medical intuitives experience perceiving information is through feeling client symptoms in their own body. This was cited as the least preferable way of receiving information. Finally, it was said that sometimes information simply pops in as a clear knowing. Participants noted that once information is received via intuitive perception, they are careful not to place meaning onto it, preferring instead to simply describe for the client what was perceived. The second theme group relates to what it is like to live with extrasensory perception. For all participants, there seemed to be a path of development. About half reported readily accepting their extrasensory abilities, whereas the other half reported challenges. In those cases, fear, skepticism, and resistance contributed to a delay in embracing their abilities. In all cases, practitioners reported that with time and practice, their perceptual skill grew in scope and precision. Practitioners expressed how they take great care in sharing their findings with clients, using discernment to decide whether and how to share what could be sensitive information. The emotional well-being of clients seemed to be a priority. Living with extrasensory perception seems to involve respecting boundaries. Medical intuitives reporting crossing past the boundary of their client's energy field such that a merging of fields take place. As a result, they typically engage in energetic clearing practices. They also talked about first obtaining permission before reading a person, which some do via non-physical methods, purportedly by communicating with a person's soul or spirit. A particularly interesting finding had to do with medical intuitives' ability to set a boundary around receiving information as they go about their daily life. While a few reported the ability to turn off incoming extrasensory information, others shared that it is, quote, always on, for better or for worse. Another way extrasensory perception was said to influence the lives of medical intuitives was through the receipt of guidance, often from ostensible spirit guides. In many cases, spirit guides or an intuitive calling were said to lead directly to the decision to practice medical intuition. The other part of this theme relates to relationships. A challenge noted in this area was unintentionally perceiving information about a loved one and then having to decide what to do with the information. All participants seem to hold a similar worldview, one based in the notion of interconnectedness, in which all that exists is part of a oneness. Within a framework of oneness, it seems rational that a medical intuitive could perceive information about a geographically distant person knowing only their name. Within an interconnected world, participants talked about the existence of multiple realms, higher intelligence, the concept of souls, and human energy fields. Another view shared by participants was that physical health is a reflection of multiple dimensions, including mental, emotional, and spiritual. It was deemed important for a person's physical healing to identify the root level of cause, which was cited as often being on the emotional level. Participants seemed to support a variety of healing modalities, from energy medicine to Western medicine. I hope that the findings of this study help to demystify the phenomenon of medical intuition and to raise awareness of its potential value in healthcare. Findings suggest that there may be a complementary relationship between medical intuitives and doctors. It is also hoped that understanding more about the lived experience of practitioners will contribute to a normalization of intuitive perception as a way of knowing. Where does research go from here? Well, one important finding of this study was that intuitive perception develops over time and with practice. Therefore, future research focused on evaluating intuitive accuracy may want to consider the experience level of participants. An intriguing finding that invites further research regards factors that contribute to a seeming ability to turn off extrasensory perception as compared to it always being on. Next, there seemed to be an overlap between the skill of medical intuition and that of mediumship. Researchers in these fields may benefit from sharing data. The notion of spirit guides was prominent among the data and seems a ripe area for further investigation. Finally, studying the perspective of clients would seem to be a natural next step in continuing to build an understanding of medical intuition. Here is a list of references used in this presentation. And here's my website address, where you may access a copy of the research abstract as well as a link to the full report. Feel free to contact me through my website with any questions about this fascinating study. Thanks so much.